The Rev Blues, otherwise known as Greg Jones, is a wonderfully easy to listen to, multi-talented musician. As his name infers, Rev Blues sings and plays the blues on guitar and harmonica, and his music just makes you feel like kicking off your shoes and taking a big deep breath in. Truly laid-back music. I noticed Greg before I actually met him. Lots of summer Sundays he would sit out in front of our pretty little town church under the weeping willow tree, entertaining passers-by and whoever chose to sit down and rest a while. Not busking, just playing his music. Other times he played boutique gigs in tiny cafes and wine bars, gourmet foodie spots, by the fire or out on the porch, in season or out. Rev Blues shares his gift. Finally I got talking to him and found a man as delightful and down-to-earth as the songs he crafted. A retired Anglican minister, struggling through the very deep grief of losing his beloved wife of 48 years, at times having to work hard to discern God's hand through the blackness of his intense emotional pain. A devoted father to 3 daughters, a son to his parents, a brother to his siblings, and a loving grandfather within his family, and also for many years a travelling church minister with a bigger parish than the entire island state he was born into, as he served the outer Murchison region of remote Western Australia. Greg has worn many differing hats in his lifetime. These are just parts of his story.
Here to the end, where shall I go but you?
What were your childhood memories? Tell us about your parents.
Well, mixed a bit. I mean, I had a really nice childhood in that we were free to roam in the bush without fear and light bushfires and chop down trees and get involved in gang fights and stuff like that. And but my dad was very distant when we were little children. He couldn't relate to little children.
Oh, that's a shame.
That improved later when I became more like a little human being. When I was about 12, 13, we used to walk together and talk about nature and the beautiful Trevellyn Gorge in Launceston. We used to go for long walks and stuff like that. And but my mother was an encourager in many ways. She became a Christian when I was 12 years old at a mini Billy Graham crusade at York Park in Launceston.
Wow.
And so the Christian faith came into the family.
So did your mother lead you to Christ?
Not really. She was probably part of it, but she dragged me out the front with her when she went out to make a commitment. It worked for her, but it didn't work for me at the time. So 10 years later, at the age of 22, I finally gave in to God. And I think there were some influences. There were people like my mother who prayed for me.
Sure.
But the most significant influence in that was, we're getting out of the childhood bit now, but was when I was working in Devonport as a trainee hotel manager, but I was actually a glorified barman. But I was away from home by myself, and I bought a New Testament. I actually brought a New Testament with me and started to read it in language I understood instead of King James English for me.
Absolutely.
It just worked. And I was converted to Christianity in my room, just reading.
Well, God clearly had his hand on you.
I believe so, and people were praying for me. And the next significant thing there was that a young couple about 2 years older than me, married couple, took me on board and helped unwrap the parcel and just welcomed me into their house as I was with my long hippie hair. And
I've seen your pictures. Yeah, you're a bit of a long-haired hippie.
I was in a way. And of course, one of the other happy memories of my childhood was not quite as significant as a Christian conversion, but a conversion to jazz. So I had a cousin 9 years older than me, and he trusted me with his beautiful vinyl records of people like Oscar Peterson and Miles Davis, Charlie Bird. And I got a paper round, and every month I'd save up and I'd buy myself a vinyl record of jazz, but not just jazz. I used to like Peter, Paul and Mary and other types of music. Right. But jazz was my first love, and that comes through a little bit in my music.
And faith seem to be your twin.
They are very much so.
Yes, the
Yeah.
driving forces in your life.
Yes.
You became a minister as well.
Eventually, yeah. And I studied for ministry starting when I was about 25 years old. I did 4 years of theology study and then was ordained in the Diocese of Tasmania and had my first ministry experience in Howrah on the eastern shore of Hobart.
Yep.
But the music came from me very young, and even in nature I used to hear music in the wind brushing through the trees or the insects in a hot summer day, and you could hear the crisp air, clean air and all these insects singing and birds. And
Wow.
like music to me. And before I picked up an instrument, I used to bang sticks together and try and make music rhythm and stuff like that.
Okay.
So music's been a big part of my journey.
Mm.
And at one stage I would have said, quite stupidly in some ways, that my God was music. And I used to worship music. But even so, I had this underlying residue from my parents, I guess, my mum especially, of Christianity, where I would actually defend the existence of God without letting that apply to my life. So I'd argue for Christianity and the existence of God, but I wanted to behave like the normal teenager, 18-year-old, getting drunk and
Living all those,
using the guitar to try and seduce women.
all those normal things.
Yeah.
Greg, you told me a little while ago when we were chatting in the kitchen about how you and your father managed to reconnect again later in life after what was essentially a difficult childhood.
Mm.
Can you tell us a bit more about that?
A couple of things. My dad, when he punished me, it was pretty violent, and probably a difficult time for me as a kid growing up, for fear often of saying the wrong thing or you're doing the wrong thing. And also, Dad was a distant father. He was brought up by maiden aunts, and he lost his dad when he was 12 years old. And so he was used to being the focal thing. So he was very independent from the family. Like, his social life was conducted with his mates from work after work, and could come home inebriated sometimes, and we had to be careful what we said.
Mm.
If he was reading the newspaper, he would interrupt, that sort of stuff. But so, and about the age of 17, pretty common. He was a dux of St Patrick's College and had a string of degrees. And he said to me when I was about 17, "Greg, you'll amount to nothing," because I was a rebel at high school and I actually didn't even pass high school.
Well, he got that wrong.
Yeah. And so when I was working at Cranbourne as a minister, I was there for 9 years. When I was around about 45 through to mid-50s, I was doing some reading about healing of the masculine soul.
Mm-hmm.
And this book suggested that men need to be reconciled with their father, even more powerfully than a mother maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And so after reading this book, I actually wrote to him, and I thought about all the positive things I could remember, like our walks in the bush, and when I was a bit older that happened.
Mm.
And I wrote to him, and this letter described all those sort of things, the happy times. And I got a letter back with him about a week from him, a week later, saying, "Son, I'm so sorry I was a bastard of a father," these are the words. "Would you please forgive me?" And that was
Wow.
the beginning of the healing between the two of us.
How did it feel when you got that?
Freedom
Yeah.
and a greater love for my father.
Mm.
And after that, we were able to communicate well, and eventually I saw my father at the age of 67 giving into Jesus as well, becoming a Christian himself.
Oh, that's a beautiful story. Thank you so much. I can see that's deeply personal, and
Yeah.
thank you for sharing it. What has your greatest challenge in life been?
I guess to be a genuine Christian, to live out what I read in the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
and not to be a hypocrite or insincere. And I think of the word insincere comes from the making of a pot. If it was cracked in the ancient world, they would wax it, and that was an insincere pot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was actually a product that wouldn't last long. So to be sincere in my Christian faith, applying it to my marriage, the way I brought up my children and stuff, that was a huge challenge really to do that.
Oh.
And I guess the greatest struggle, like family-wise, was when I lost my wife, and that was the biggest test of faith for me.
Yes, I can. Yes.
And to still believe, and I lost her. So I've been through the deep, but I'm coming out the other end now, I think,
That's good to
with
hear.
a renewed faith and
Yeah.
rediscovery and trusting God more again.
So, lastly, what do you believe is the most important thing in life then? Our purpose, if you like.
I would say to know that God is with you,
Mm-hmm.
and that there's a collect in the prayer book that says to serve God is perfect freedom, which is sort of how can you be, or to be a slave of God is perfect freedom, but that in a real essence serving Him is the true source of meaning and freedom for me.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you so much. And we're about now to play your song and to see pictures from your life.
Yes.
And I look forward to that.
Can I just say something about
Yes.
the song very briefly? The song is called Love Comes Tumbling Down, and it's I played it somewhere in a church, and a minister came up to me and said that defines grace, that song, because it's all about God giving
Mm-hmm.
and loving, and love come tumbling down over me, and it's almost like a Brazilian feel to it, even though it's just one of my compositions. Love comes tumbling down on me. Love comes tumbling down. Lord, you fall on me. Come on, fall on me. Joy floods my soul. Joy comes tumbling down on me, and it humbles me. Lord, fall on me. Think on purity, dwell on truth that heals your body and your mind. Think on eternal life that goes on and on and on. Lord, you fall on me. Fall on me.
Love comes tumbling down on me. Love comes tumbling down, down, down. Lord, you fall on me. You fall on me. Fall